Hey there, my friend. This is Paul Hutchings coming to you from my home on the web at paulhutchings.net to share with you another, hopefully, inspiring and empowering video to help fuel you on your road and journey to freedom. So today, the title of the video is Smarter Than a Dog. And this video is inspired actually because this morning I was sitting in my hot tub and an interesting thing happened. So my hot tub looks over my backyard, and at the edge of our backyard we have this little dog kennel where our dog lives for the most part. We let him out and stuff and he runs around, but you know, a lot of times he's in the cage because we don't want him to run out and bother the neighbors. Well, in any case, I'm sitting in my hot tub having a nice quiet soak, and all of a sudden I hear my dog start to bark and rattle the cage and just go crazy. And I look over and he's really stressed out and he's just barking. And I'm like, what's going on? What are you barking at? And I look over and I see that a cat had walked across the yard and he was getting in an uproar, you know, about this cat walking across the yard. And I was just thinking about that and how funny that was, that he was barking at something outside of his cage that really, for the most part, he had no control over. Sometimes I actually think our cats taunt our dog intentionally. But in any case, what's the lesson here, and how does this relate to us and our lives and our journey forward to freedom? Well, right now in the United States of America, we've got a lot of craziness going on, and also actually throughout the world. But of course, here in America, we've got this election that's been happening. And for the last 10 or so years, I've been really good at tuning out, for the most part, news and politics and divisive issues of the day. Why? Because I wanted to focus on building a life of freedom. I wanted to focus on what I could control. And at various times over the last, year, I guess, 2020, with the coronavirus pandemic and the election happening and all the craziness going on and the censoring that's happening in social media, I found myself, and I know I'm not the only one because I see a lot of my friends doing this, I found myself sucked into it a little bit, and even to the point where I've taken action on things and talked about things that normally I probably wouldn't talk about. And none of that's bad. I'm not here to say that any of it's bad. I'm not here to pass judgment on anyone, really, but what I do want to pass along is this lesson that I learned from my dog this morning, and that is, as I watched the dog this morning, I just noticed him barking about things that were clear outside of his cage. And I thought, there are things within his cage that he could be focusing on. He could be focusing on digging a hole to get out of his cage. He could be focusing on making his cage a little bit nicer, his living area. He could be focusing on drinking some nice cool water. He could be focusing on eating. He could be focusing on laying down and taking a nap. There are all these things that were within his cage that the dog had the ability to control, should he have made the decision that he wanted to control and have an impact on those things. And I just thought about the metaphor and how that can apply to us in our lives, and how oftentimes, at least this is how I felt, is I get passionate, about all these different issues that are going on, and I get upset, and I have these, fueled opinions. And of course, this happens on really both sides of any type of debate that you're finding yourself in. You're passionate. You really believe what you believe, and the other side's wrong, and I just have to ask myself this question, and I want to ask you to ask yourself this question as well. How much is your opinion or even your emotions regarding whatever controversial issue of the day, how much is your opinion actually having an impact on the larger issue? And if it's having a big impact and you see positive direction moving forward, then by all means, I'm not here to encourage you to do anything other than that. But I guess what I do want to encourage us all to think about is, what are the things we can have the most impact on? And as I reflect on some of these things that I sometimes find myself getting upset about, I have to remind myself that there are powerful voices, eloquent voices, visible leaders that are championing some of these things that I might feel need to be championed. And so what difference does adding my voice into the mix really make on the overall big picture? And this is just for me, my personal questioning and answering of this question. And the answer that I keep coming up with is not much. Like, really, my opinion on certain things that are in a broader context doesn't really make much of a difference. And so if I'm finding myself emotionally distraught or depressed or frustrated with all of these things inside of me that are really not making an impact on the bigger picture anyway, then at least I can say none of that's really useful. And maybe I can make a decision like my dog could have made the decision had my dog had the ability to think and reason like we as people have the ability to think and reason. I can make the decision to focus on things that I can control, focus on things that are within my cage. And thankfully, over the last 10 years, I've done that for the most part, and I'm financially free, right? Because I focused on what was inside my cage. I focused on digging a hole out, or I focused on tearing the cage down, and I focused on things that I could have a direct impact on. And that really has produced an amazing benefit for me in my life. And so I guess I just wanted to record this video in the midst of all of the craziness that's going on in the world and just give you an invitation to ask yourself some of these questions I'm asking myself and encourage you to draw your power. If you're casting your power way outside of yourself, way outside of the cage, at the cat that's walking across the lawn that you really don't have much of an impact on, draw your power back in, gather it up inside of you, and focus all of your power on those things right in your immediate reality. Your business, your family, the things that you can do right now today to move your life, your business, your dreams and goals forward into the future. And I just have a sense that the more we do that, and this has kind of been my sense for the last 10 years or so, when I first started asking myself some of these questions, but way back when I was living in a single wide trailer house, I said, because the same thing was happening. I was frustrated by different political issues. I was frustrated by corruption. I was frustrated, when you go down those rabbit holes go deep. And sometimes the more you dig, the more upset you become because the more injustice you find. And I did all of that, and I said, this is not really helping my life. I'm not really having an impact on it. So let me focus on what I can control. Let me focus on building a successful business. Let me focus on building financial freedom. Let me focus on developing my skill set. Let me focus on broadening and widening my reach. And maybe someday through that path, I can have the effect that I want to have, should I want to have a bigger impact on some of these bigger issues. Like Gandhi said, be the change we wish to see in the world, right? So if we're frustrated by politicians lying and yelling and arguing and fighting and screaming, it doesn't seem like us fighting and yelling and arguing and being upset and all of that stuff, it doesn't really seem like that's adding much to the solution. If we can be the change, if we can be the peaceful ones, if we can be the ones that are realizing that we do have power inside of our cage and then focus on getting rid of that cage, right? I think we can shine our light brighter and we can have a much more positive impact on the bigger picture overall if we do these things. One of my favorite quotes, Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." However, a big part of that to me, it seems to me anyway, to be changing yourself first, focusing on yourself, focusing on being the change and focusing on doing those things that are right within your sphere of control that you can have a positive impact on. And by all means, while we're doing it, my goodness, let's have faith. Let's be happy. Let's spread joy. Let's spread light. Let's choose to be in alignment with the highest vibrations possible and not allow the lowest vibrations drag us down into the mud and muck. And hey, I get it. There are a lot of really solid, great reasons to be dragged down into that stuff. But if it's not helping the overall picture, then what good is it doing you and your family? So anyway, this was a message on my heart. I hope that maybe it spread a little bit of value to you today. I love you. I believe in you. I know you've got greatness within you. Focus on those things you can control. Take action today. Go for your dreams. And let's build a better world by starting with building a better life for ourselves and those we care about. Have a great one. Take care and bye for now.